Welcome back guys for another prediction video, and this time we are going to focus on singles. Yes, of course, last time we did have a look at the best sealed products, and if you did miss that video, this is what you're looking for right here. But this time we're going to focus on a few of the singles from 2024, a couple from beforehand, and also one to come out in 2025. We're going to have a look at where we think their prices will be in a year's time from now. Just on a quick side note guys, I wanted to say a massive thank you for all of the support that you're all showing me on my videos. The last couple in particular have really flown in terms of views, likes, comments and everything. And I wanted to say personally, it does feel amazing to see that level of support on the content I'm creating. Guys, if you are new here and you aren't yet subscribed, please don't hesitate to do so if you do enjoy this style of content, as I would love to have you here. And I enjoy making content for you guys. As I did with the last video guys, when predicting the prices of the sealed products, I'll leave chapters here along the bottom so that you can skip between the talk of each card as well as the exact moment when I predict the name of the card as well as the price it will be this time next year. Anyway, without any further ado guys, let's predict some prices, shall we? Now guys, to kick things off, we're going to go all the way back to 2019. Yes, this card came out 6 years ago. How time flies, right? I do remember when this card came out, how beautiful it was, the rave around it, and it is now 6 years on since this was released. Now, of course, as you can see in front of me, or if you're not watching and you just have me on in the background, this is the Latias and Latios GX card from Team Up. Now, an extremely infamous card, an extremely beautiful card, and I'm including it in the video as it is one of two cards from the modern era that I do think are all-timers. Of course, we'll get into the next one next. If you can see my tabs, you will see what the next card is. But anyway, looking at the price, $1,125 it's sitting at right now. And here in front of me, I have a 1 year graph, right? So it kicked off the year, this time last year, at $730 US more or less. It has risen by 53.49% exactly to, as I just said, $1,125 US. Now, although this might seem a fairly boring prediction or simple prediction, I think it will have the exact same rise in regards to how much money it's risen by. Not by percentage, but I do think it will rise by another $400 more or less, and it will hit that $1,500 mark this time next year. I think it's only going to continue to get older. There really isn't a lot of Team Up being open now. It's an extremely expensive booster box, and it's hard to get hands on. There's not a lot of it available, therefore there isn't a lot that's being opened, and the population of this card is not increasing. Therefore, I do think that this card will continue to rise, especially with the way the market's going. So that's my prediction, guys. That $1,500 this time next year for the Latias and Latios GX card. So for the first prediction, guys, the Latias and Latios GX card, I think will be this time next year, $1,500 US. Now moving on to Umbreon VMAX, the grail of the modern era, in my opinion. I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that. This card has only gone from strength to strength, especially over the last year. It has risen a lot, and we're just going to get into that in a second. Now, of course, this being the chase card of Evolving Skies, it is currently sitting at a price of $1,413 US. Now, if we look at how much it's risen over the last year, we can see it has risen by 162%. It started off the year at this point last year at $538 and has risen, as I just said, to $1,413. It's almost risen by $1,000, which is absolutely insane. Now, I do think this card will continue in the same vein. Of course, as I said with the previous card, the market is an extremely strong situation right now. And also, just like with the Latias Latios GX card, the fact that this is from an older set and therefore packs really aren't being opened, not many people can really afford to buy a booster box or any products of Evolving Skies. And even if they can, it's such a hard pull that they're not likely to pull this card, and therefore population isn't really increasing. So to sit at prediction, guys, I think this year, I think it's actually going to hit a milestone, and I do think it will hit that $2,000 US mark by this time next year. So guys, prediction number 2, Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies, I think will reach $2,000 US this time next year. Now the third card we'll look at, guys, is Mew Ex from Paldean Fates. Of course, this was released this time last year, therefore it is at exactly a year, and we're going to have a look at the growth it's made throughout the year. Now, on a quick side note, guys, I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but I did just while I was looking at it before recording. But for those of you that are old enough to remember, if you've watched the first Pokemon movie, this is what it reminds me of, right? And remember that scene when Mew's in his little bubble and he's flying around underwater and above water? Perhaps you're not old enough to remember that. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you do. It's a brilliant movie, and perhaps this card is based on that. Perhaps that's the inspiration for the card. I don't know. Perhaps I've been living under a rock and everyone knows this. I don't know, but that's what it reminds me of. Anyway, looking at the card, it currently sitting at $260 US. Now, as we can see, as I said, it was released about a year ago, and it did around release sit around that 90 to 100 to sort of US dollar mark. It did peak here at 133, but that was sort of a small peak there, like a very short period of time. And it did sit around for a majority of the year around that 70, 80, $90 mark until we had this huge market boom in the last couple months. And the Mew Ex card has absolutely flown with the market and reached a peak here of $305 US, which is phenomenal, right? It has settled at now at the point of filming this video at $260 US. But I think we're in for a very strong year in 2025. I do think things are going to go very well for the TCG and all of the sealed products and single cards themselves, especially the good ones like this Mew Ex. And I do think this card next year could reach levels of around, probably not quite $500 US. I don't think it will double, but I do think it will rise quite nicely. And I'm going to predict it will sit around 450. So there we have it, guys. My third prediction, the Mew Ex from Paldean Fates, I think will reach this time next year $450 US. Now here we have in front of us, guys, the fourth card, and that is Greninja Ex from Twilight Masquerade. Now, I think a lot of people, and myself included, thought this was going to be the chase card of 2024 until Pikachu from Surging Sparks come along and had other ideas and ruined Greninja Ex's spotlight. Now, it doesn't mean it's tanked in price or anything. It does mean it has been overtaken in regards to price and the chase card of the year, but it still has an extremely respectable and justified price. Now, talking to the price, it does currently sit at $316 US. Now, I have in front of me the 6-month graph, not the year one, as it hasn't quite been out for a year, so the 6-month graph is a better one to go by. Now, upon release, it did soar to around $200 US. With reason, it's a beautiful card, right? And it was well known to be the chase card of the set. Of course, there's other good cards in that set, such as the Eevee and the Carmine, etc. But Greninja Ex, far and away the best card of that set. Now, it has risen. It is a little bit sporadic, the chart, but it has risen with the market being the way it is the last couple of months. It's the same way with all the cards, right, that we looked at. The market is rising everything with it. Therefore, Greninja Ex is no exception. And it has risen about, from release, $100 US. Currently sitting at, as I said, 316. I do think this is going to rise nicely in the next year, and I do think it will hit that $500 US mark. So guys, prediction number 4, the Greninja Ex from Twilight Masquerade, I think will reach $500 US this time next year. Now, the penultimate card of the video, guys, and the last chase card of the year of 2024, we have the infamous Pikachu Ex from Surging Sparks. Now, guys, it's Pikachu, right? I don't need to say any more. If you go ask a random person, name a Pokemon, the majority will say Pikachu. It's that well known. It's the poster boy of the IP. Any Pikachu card, any special Pikachu card is going to have a high price. It's going to be very sought after. And this one's no exception, right? We know on release the infamous stories of how expensive the raw card was going for. Even the story of on eBay, that first PSA 10 graded card going for thousands and thousands and thousands of US. Crazy times, right? And of course, the market being the way it is going to naturally inflate these prices as well. And at the minute, this card sits at $468 US, guys. Okay, on release, of course, we only need to look at the 3-month graph here. On release, it shot immediately up to over 500, almost $600 US at its peak, right? It has fallen since then, and it has plateaued a little bit. There's rises and there's dips, but it is sitting at that between $450 to $500 US mark, as has the seal product. If you look at the booster box for Surging Sparks as well, it has plateaued a bit recently. I did do a video on that the other day if you want to check that out, guys, but it has, naturally it's going to, right? It's going to be, because of how sought after it was on release, it's naturally going to have a crazy rise, and people are going to realize how crazy the prices are, and they're not going to pay those prices. Therefore, naturally, they are going to drop off a little bit, right? But with the market being the way it is and how strong of a year 2025 will be, I do think this is going to rise a lot, and I do think we will see this card hit $650 to $700 US, to be honest, guys. So my fifth prediction is the Pikachu EX from Surging Sparks, and I do think this will reach $650 US this time next year. Now the last card of the video, guys, is the Umbreon EX from Prismatic Evolutions. Now, here in front of me, I do have the Japanese card from Twilight Festival, as we don't yet have an official picture of the English version from Prismatic Evolutions. Therefore, we don't also have a TCG Player site to look at prices because it simply doesn't exist yet. So we're looking at this card and we're going to talk about it now. We've seen it pulled in the Japanese Twilight Festival set, but things are different with that, right? We know that they have guaranteed pull rates for certain cards, whereas in the English sets, that isn't the case. I do think this card will be the chase card. I've heard some people say, but it looks like pull rates might be harder for the Master War of Us Holo, blah, blah, blah. But okay, even though that's the case, I do think this card, because of the art it is, because it's Umbreon being a fan favorite, Umbreon historically having high prices. We've seen earlier on the video with the VMAX from Evolving Skies, just how sought after the Umbreon cards are. I do think this will be the chase card, and I don't know what the pull rates are going to be like. I don't know how heavily they're going to print it either. It's extremely hard to say, but I do want to give a price just as a bit of fun, just to see how wrong I will be or how right I will be next year. I don't know. It depends how you look at it. Glass half full, glass half empty. But I will say, I'm going to say $500 US. I'm going to give a very, very sort of generic answer. I would rather give like a parameter, sort of 400 to 600, but I've given sort of more specific prices for the other cards in this video, so I will do for this one as well. And I'm going to say it will sit at around this time next year, $500 US. So to cap things off with my final prediction, guys, I think the Umbreon Ex from Prismatic Evolutions will sit at this time next year at around $500 US. Guys, it's been a lot of fun looking at these cards and trying to predict where they'll be in a year's time. Now, of course, I don't have a crystal ball. I am not magic. I can't see the future. Therefore, these are purely predictions and just a bit of fun to see just how right or wrong we were in a year's time. Guys, I want to know what you guys think of my predictions, as well as what you guys think the prices of these cards will be. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. As I said at the beginning of the video, guys, I am massively appreciating the support you're showing on my videos. Therefore, if you have enjoyed this one, please don't hesitate to leave a like. And if you are new here, you can subscribe right here. Guys, if you want to see my prediction of sealed products and where they'll be this time next year, you can see that right here. Or if you want to see a video on my recap of 2024, you can look at that right here. Guys, I've been PokeCharlotte. I'll catch you in the next one.